Well, ripple effects in Washington after the sudden resignation of Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel. Multiple sources and pundits saying that he was pushed out by President Obama. Hagel stepping down after less than 2 years on the job, leaving the impression with many observers that he was made a scapegoat, perhaps, for the administration's foreign policy failures. Lots being written and said about that this morning. So what is next at the Pentagon? Let's bring in General Jack Keane, Fox News military analyst and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. Good morning, General. Good to see you this morning. Let's start with the beginning, though. How would you characterize the mood and the tenor in the White House that led to this decision?
Well, I compare it to, frankly, the White House that I got a glimpse of in late 2006, the Bush administration, when the war in Iraq was failing and they had a lousy midterm election. The fear was palpable. And they, frankly, were struggling what to do. Do they need a new strategy? Do they need new leaders? And obviously they decided on both, removing Secretary Rumsfeld and also removing the generals and creating a new strategy. Here we fast forward to this event, lousy midterm elections to be sure, and fear palpable, I believe, in the White House because of events that seem to be spinning out of control. Putin and Ukraine, and obviously ISIS, and a strategy that does not seem to be working. And I think Hagel ran right up against all of that.
Yeah, and I know that you feel like he started to side with the generals instead of the White House as well, right?
Yeah, I think he was initially the president's indispensable man because he was opposed to the war in Iraq as a fellow senator. He wanted to get out of Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was willing to cut the defense budget. But then Putin, ISIS, and Ebola all came on the scene, and he found himself agreeing more with the generals, less the president's man, more the general's man, and actually advocating for arming the Ukrainians, taking a stronger stand on troops on the ground in Iraq, doing something about Assad in Syria, and he was very much for quarantining our troops coming back from Africa based on Ebola. So all of those things put him at odds with this White House, Margaret, and the fact of the matter is that's a small, closeted, insular team there, and they resented the fact that he was more independent of them.
Well, one could take away from this, going through 3 defense secretaries in such a short period of time, that the president is having a hard time finding someone to run the Pentagon who agrees with him. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it's partially true. I think the problem we have here is there is no department in the executive branch where there's more tension and frustration with the leaders than there is between the President of the United States, his White House National Security team, and the Department of Defense. And Secretary Gates laid that out in his book, Secretary Panetta did it, and here we have another incident where a Secretary of Defense is very much at odds, as have the generals been through all 3 secretaries. And now we're going to have a 4th Secretary of Defense in 6 years serving a single president. That is really quite unprecedented. I think it dramatizes the tension and frustration that truly exists here.
That's got to be a pretty potent cocktail for anybody who's considering taking this job. And there's a number of names out there, Michelle Flournoy among them, Ash Carter among them. Who do you think of those folks, if it's one of those folks, has the appetite for this job at this point?
Well, I can't speak to their motivations, and he may, pull out a dark horse here, a name that's not in the media. But the fact of the matter is, both of them are very capable, and both of them, I believe, would do a good job. Michelle Flournoy was pretty close the last time, if we believe all the inside reports between herself and Secretary Hagel. I know her better than I know Ash Carter, but they're both very capable, and the president would be well served to select either one of them.
All right, General, thank you. We'll see where this goes. Good to talk to you today.
Yeah, good talking to you, Martha. Happy Thanksgiving.
You bet.